Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron. Today we're going to get back on the burnout truck, and I've been looking high and low trying to find a 2-barrel carburetor that'll fit this thing, and I don't have one. I've exhausted about all my options to find one, so I've decided to go another route. And I don't know 100% for sure what kind of fuel delivery system I'm gonna have on this truck yet. I'd like to go EFI, but I haven't found a system yet that I can use, that I can, set my fuel regulating and firing order and stuff like that. I know they're out there, I just haven't done the research to figure it out yet. So I don't know what it's going to cost and whatnot. So anyways, what I'm trying to do is get this truck fired up so I can hear it run and make sure the bottom end of the motor's good, because that's all I'm worried about right now is the bottom end of the motor good or not. So I came up with this plan, and before I even show you guys what it is, I'm going to say it's probably not going to work, but it's a crazy idea I had, and I'm gonna try it. So I took a regular old Quadrajet to 4150 flange adapter, and I took this metal plate and I drilled this plate and this adapter to meet the bolt pattern of the 2-barrel. And then I can take my old Carter AFB that I got here and bolt it onto that flange, and I should be able to at least get a little bit of air and a little bit of fuel into the motor to get it to fire up. So this is basically going to be a will it start video. I started making that yesterday. I set it on the truck a couple times just to make sure it was going to fit, and it looks like I'm going to have to, instead of having the carburetor sitting on here so that the butterflies on the carburetor line up with these holes I made, I'm going to have to turn the carburetor sideways, because otherwise this linkage here hits the valve cover. So I don't know, it's probably not going to work. I'm just going to say that before we even get started, but just to have it run for a few minutes, I think if I can get some air and some fuel going in there, it should give us what we need. So I'm going to get this finished up real quick, and we'll get to it and we'll see if we can get this thing to run. All right. Couple of things I want to go over before we keep going on the will it start video on the burnout truck. First thing is the name for the truck. I asked you guys if anybody had an idea of a name and we could pick from it, and I got a decent amount of comments on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you guys all the names that were in the comments, and then I'm going to let you vote, and the name with the most votes is going to be the name of the truck. So we have Maud, Gladys, Burning Night Vision, Harmon's Hammer, Six Pack Attack, Thor's Nemesis, Skid Mark, Barn Burner, 666, Aaron 6, Straight Shooter, 6 Squared, Nomac, 6 Gun, or Revolver. So they're all good names, interesting names. So I'll put them up here on the screen so you can actually see them instead of trying to remember them all from me saying them. But go down in the comments below, leave a comment with your pick for the name, and the most comments on a specific name will be the name that gets picked for the truck. So second thing real quick, I purchased a domain for the website to sell the shirts and the stickers, and I have realized that I'm not a website designer, so I'm trying to work my way through getting it going. But it should be very soon, and as soon as I get it up, I'll let all y'all know, so you can go on there and see what I have and maybe get something if you want to. So I got my little adapter plate, 2-barrel to 4-barrel adapter. I know you can buy them, but I'm not wanting to spend any money on this because I'm most likely not going to run a carburetor on this, and if I do, it'll be on a 4-barrel intake manifold. So I just want to see if it runs. But I ground down and cleaned all the paint off of that metal plate that I made, cleaned up all the rough edges on it and stuff, so nothing's getting down in the motor. I put number 2 sealant in between the gasket from the adapter plate and that metal plate because it's resistant to gas and oil, so it's not like using silicone. It's made for gas and oil. So I put that in there, and then I put another gasket, and then I got my carburetor. So it's on there. Obviously we still got to hook up a fuel line. I'm not going to worry about, I mean, I could just hook my linkage up, it's right here, but I'm not going to bother hooking any of that up because I just specifically want to see if it's going to run. So I'm going to plug off all these vacuum ports, and looks like we still got a fuel pump. So whoa, about to fall off the trailer. I'll put a fitting in here, run fuel up to the carburetor, and then I'll disconnect this feed line from the tank and run it into an auxiliary fuel jug. Or I might not even do that. I might just fill the bowl vents on the carburetor and do it that way. But upon further inspection, the side covers are missing off the motor, which if I don't have the set off of my other 6, I know I have a set of billet ones. Starter's missing. I'm 99% sure I have one of those, so we can get that on. And I'm missing, looks like 2 spark plug wires, which I've got those laying around also. So I'm gonna go dig around, see if I can find a starter, and see if I can find those side covers. If not, like I said, I know I have the billet ones I can put on there, and get a couple spark plug wires, and then we'll be able to see if this thing wants to start. All right, it's been about, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month since I started filming this video. But I started filming it hoping I could get it done while groundskeeper was off getting wrapped. And I didn't finish it up, and then groundskeeper came back, and then I had to go 100% on groundskeeper all day, every day. So I'm gonna get back into the burnout truck now. But today, don't look over here. That's another project that we're gonna introduce in the next video. But I came in this morning, started getting the shop cleaned up, and not gonna say it's clean, but a lot better than it was. Got a bunch of parts for this new project behind me, and I'm just kind of tinkering today. Working on getting a wiring harness out of Rum Runner right now. I already got the dash out because I have a new dash to put in there, which when I start doing the wiring and put the dash in, I'm gonna film all of that for you guys. That old busted dash, I really only had to take about 2 bolts out and the whole thing fell apart on the floor. So we got that, and the reason, I'm back on Rum Runner because I have time now, and I really like to get it done, but now Rum Runner's on a timeline. So I'm probably going to be doing a couple videos about the project I got sitting over there, and it's, you know, basically priority right now. The guy's not in a huge hurry for it, but I still need to get it done. It's been sitting here for a while, but I've actually decided to sponsor a truck show, And if I'm going to sponsor the show and go to the show, I'm going to have something of mine at the show. So Rum Runner's going to be that something. It kind of works out for me to have a deadline to get it done, because if I have a deadline when it's got to be done, just like groundskeeper, it will be done. So there's a show. This is the first year of this show. It should be a pretty big show, and it's called The Truck Gathering. It's going to be in Norman, Oklahoma on April 15th, 2023. I'm sponsoring it. They're only opening up 500 registrations to start. They do have room for more vehicles there, but they're only opening 500 to start because they're not sure on staffing and stuff like that yet. So pre-registration is open. If you haven't heard about the truck gathering, go to www.thetruckgathering.com. I'll put it right here. And I'll also put it down in the link down in the description. But check it out. It's not just for Chevy trucks. It's for all makes and models of trucks across the board. And it's supposed to just be a fun show. Like, everybody get together, hang out, have a good time. They're doing the shows on a Saturday. The Friday night before the show, they're going to do a poker run that is free with the registration. If you are registered for the show, you can go to the 5 stops, get the 5 playing cards, and whoever has the best the best 5 cards at the end of the poker run wins a special prize. I don't know what that prize is. Probably won't know what it is because it's going to be a surprise. But either way, make sure you go check out the Truck Gathering. If you're in the Norman, Oklahoma area, or you're willing to travel, get your registration in, come see us. So the title sponsor is LMC, and it's going to be held at Landers Chevrolet in Norman, Oklahoma. So go check out the website. There's tons of information on there. I don't have it all in my head because I just started finding out more information about it when I decided to sponsor it. But make sure you check it out. All right, so we're back on the burnout truck. I believe I already showed you guys I got the carburetor on there that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. I grabbed a random Chevy starter that I had laying around that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. Got an oil dipstick tube in it, got some spark plugs I had laying around put in it, got some wires I had laying around put on it. So, you know, I just want to see if it's going to run. So I'm not going and putting all new wires and new starters and all that stuff on it for right now. It will get, you know, if it needs it, it'll get that stuff in the future. But for now, I just want to see if it runs and see if the bottom end of this motor is good. That's the whole point. So the next thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, I'm going to put some plastic over that carburetor. I'm going to cover up our oil fill spot here. And I'm going to drag the truck over there to the wash bay. And I'm going to pressure wash the whole thing. So inside, outside, engine bay, engine, frame, anything I can get to with the pressure washer, I'm going to blast it as good as I can. So first thing I got to do, which I'm not going to film this because it's going to be hard to get the camera in, and it's just a quick, easy project anyways, but I'm going to pop that heater box out because we don't need that where we're going. I'm going to get the inside heater box out, same thing, don't need that where we're going. And I'm going to finish gutting the rest of the wiring. And when I go to try to start it, all I have to do is put battery power to the coil and run a trigger, battery power and a trigger to the starter, and I'll be able to crank it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the rest of that stuff pulled out, and then I'm going to get it over to the wash bay. Probably won't happen till tomorrow because I spent most of the day cleaning the shop and taking that dash out and stuff. But I get it over to the wash bay, get it filmed, and we'll see you guys in a minute. I got the truck moved up and pressure washed, as you saw, and now I need to get it back over there, which is uphill, and it's over here, which is downhill, and I've tried and I can't push it. So I'm hoping that the front bumperettes on my old dually over there will line up with the front bumper on this and I can push it, but I need somebody here to help me guide it, line it up. So waiting for my kids to get off school. Hopefully one of them can come over and help me out. In the meantime, I didn't get it super clean, but I got it hosed off to where anything that'll easily rub off isn't there anymore. So like I said before, I stuck that starter in there. I don't know if it's even gonna work, so right now while I'm waiting for help moving it, I'm gonna go ahead and stab a battery in there, hook it up to the starter, and just see if it even cranks over. And if it cranks over, then we'll start hooking up fuel lines, stuff like that, see if she'll run. Alrighty, it's the next morning, and as you can see, I got the truck pushed back up. Never did get a kid or nobody come over and help me. I just buckled down, pushed hard, and I got it moved. And I'm definitely feeling it this morning. Yesterday while I was waiting, I got a battery stabbed in here, hooked up to that starter, and I put my little clickety-clack button on there, and I had nothing. So I was like, okay, well maybe my button's bad, something. So I went and got a screwdriver, jumped it across the solenoid on the starter, still nothing. So that starter right down there is absolutely worthless to me. Like, I didn't even know if it was the right configuration to work in the truck, but most of the time Chevy starters are close enough that they'll at least crank it or try to. That one won't even engage. So ran up to the parts store, got the proper starter for this truck. I'm gonna slap it in. We're gonna go ahead and pull my don't get water in the motor device off over here, so when we crank it, it's not sucking plastic bags into the motor. And I'm gonna get that starter put in, we'll get it hooked up, and try to get this thing running today. I didn't really show you guys after I washed it. I was kind of in a mindset because I was trying to move the truck and getting frustrated and whatnot, but it all cleaned up pretty good. I got all the excess dirt and mud and crap off of it. Inside all cleaned out, still a little bit of water sitting in it, but it's supposed to be warm today, so it'll dry. I got a little bit more insulation to pull out on the firewall there, but other than that, the wiring harness, the heater box, everything is completely stripped out of it because we don't need none of that. So I'll strip a lot more stuff out of the engine compartment. I'm going to get rid of the vacuum brakes and go to non-power brakes. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the windshield washer motor and wiper motor and pump, because we don't need that where we're going. And can pull this out. I'll strip the whole wiring harness out of here, build my own harness for it, because really all it needs is ignition power and starter crank. So no point in having other stuff that easily catches fire if you don't need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap that starter in. I'll bring you guys back out. We'll hook the button up, see if we can get her to crank over. Alright, well, I'm not the brightest person or the best YouTuber, but that last video that the last clip that I just did, I didn't turn the microphone on the camera. So I'll reiterate what I was doing once again. I got the new starter in, I hooked my button up, I tried it, it cranked. I let it crank for a little bit just to make sure everything was moving free and I didn't hear any weird noises. I went back. I had to make a power wire to go from my ignition coil to my battery. That's going to be my ignition system while I do this. I put a couple vacuum caps on the carburetor there to stop a few of the vacuum leaks that we're going to have. And then I went and got a little jug of gas. So I'm going to do my best to fill up the bowls through these vent tubes. Basically, I'm just spilling gas all over the place. So got a little bit of fuel in the bowls. I'm going to put a little bit down the throat and we'll see what happens. This thing ain't cranking very fast, so I don't think it'll ever run like that, and I don't know why that battery's low because it was brand new yesterday. But I'm gonna go get some stuff, check and make sure we got spark, make sure my power wire's working here on my coil and whatnot, and once I know we got spark, then I'll hook some jumper cables up or something and get this thing cranking a little faster. Like I said, I don't even know if this carburetor setup's going to work because it's just kind of some cobbled together stuff that I made. But I just want to hear it run. I want to make sure it's not knocking or anything like that. So I know this bottom end's good, and if it is, then we can go full bore on with the project. So let me make sure we got spark, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, I don't know how well y'all are going to be able to see this. I'm going to try the best I can, but I got the spark plug here. I just went and took one off the shelf in there. I got my coil wire hooked up. I'm going to put that on the ground. And we have spark. And I'm thinking, don't know if this is logical thinking or not, but since the more we crank it, the harder it's getting to crank, either this battery's going down or we're building oil pressure, which I'm just going to say we're building oil pressure because that would make me feel better. So I'm going to bring the old dually over here and we will hook the jumper cables up, and actually I think I'm just going to drag a extension cord out here and bring the battery charger out because that will be a lot quieter than the dually sitting here idling. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more juice in this battery so we can get it spinning a little bit faster, and we'll see if she'll start. Okay, I got the battery charger hooked up. We should have some juice. I'm going to put another splash of gas down the throat of this thing and see what happens. Alright, well maybe I gotta let the battery charge for a little bit because she's not wanting to crank over very good. So we'll let that sit there and charge for a minute and hopefully we can get her cranking faster. Alright, well it's been a little while and I still can't get it to crank very good, fast enough. So the battery's charged up, that's not the problem. All my cables and connections are good, that's not a problem. My cables aren't really getting hot or anything. Just doesn't want to crank very fast. So now I'm going to, I'll show you guys how it's doing. That's actually the best it's cranked since I've tried it. So I don't know that that carburetor is getting any fuel into the motor. Maybe since it's cranking okay right now, I'll try it again. But I think what's happening is I'm not getting enough air into the motor, and then when I pour gas in it, it's totally choking it off. I don't know if you guys have ever like sprayed starting fluid in a diesel before or something, and you spray too much in there and it kind of like chokes the motor down and makes it crank slow. I think that's what's happening when I'm pouring the gas in this thing. So I've seen it done before and it kind of works. So I'm going to take the carburetor off and spray some brake parts cleaner right down the yap, hit it, and see if it just wants to run for a second. If it does, all right, that's all we need to know. If it doesn't, I'm gonna pull all the spark plugs out, shoot some penetrating oil down in the cylinders, and see what happens. I have checked the oil. It's full. It's not super clean, but it's not super bad either. So I know it's got oil in it. I could tell when I was cranking it that it built some kind of oil pressure. At least it seemed like it to me. So I think we're good there. So I'm gonna, like I said, try to take that carburetor off and just give her the beans. And if that doesn't work, then I'll pull all the spark plugs out and we'll shoot some penetrating oil down in there. So hang tight. All right, I got the carburetor taken off. My plate that I made is still on there, but it's bolted down, so it ain't going nowhere. So I'm just gonna get this thing crank a little bit. I'm gonna shoot it down the yap and see if it tries to do anything. And it's still not, so I'll pull them spark plugs out and get some penetrating oil in there and see if we can get it cranking over better. All right, well, my neighbor decided it'd be a good time to mow his yard while I'm out here working outside, so I apologize for the background noise. But I got all the spark plugs pulled out, and we got a mismatched bunch of auto lights and ACs that are old. Got a Denso, but if you look at them, they're fouled out pretty dang bad, and they're not wet. So that means the fuel and spray that I've been trying to put down in there isn't even getting in the cylinders, because it's the number one cylinder had a non-fouler on there. So we're gonna take that off, and I sprayed penetrating oil all down in the cylinders, and I'm gonna let it sit for a few minutes. I'm gonna clean all those spark plugs up really good, hopefully bring a little bit of life back to them. They are firing, but if I can clean them up and make them fire a little stronger, that might help. And also, while I was letting the battery charge, I went ahead and threw a steering column that I had in here just so I can steer it. And I just got to put the shift arm back on there, and then I'll be able to shift it in and out of park without crawling under the truck. So I don't know if that's going to be a permanent deal, being that it's a burnout specific truck. I might just go and buy some 3/4 rod and some unions and make a steering column. But I've stripped that one down. I took every ignition switches and backup light switches and everything off of it, and so it's essentially just a straight through column anyway, so I might just leave it on there. But we'll see when the time comes. But right now I'm going to clean spark plugs and let that penetrating oil do its job for a few minutes, and then we'll try cranking this thing over again. All right, well, I still have all the spark plugs out, and I've let that penetrating oil sit in there for a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and crank the motor over and make a huge mess when it shoots it all out, unless it's already ran it down past the rings. But that's fine too, because I'd like to get it on the rings to try to help loosen them up. But see what happens. Well, it's cranking over a lot better now without spark plugs in it. And as I cranked it, it started spinning faster, so I'm guessing that lube's getting in there doing its thing. And I know I have compression on all 6 cylinders because some compression on all 6 cylinders because I watched it shooting the stuff out. So now I'm hosed down with penetrating oil, and the motor's spinning over a little better. I cleaned the spark plugs. Sorry about the wind, guys. I cleaned the spark plugs, so I'm going to go ahead and slap them back in. We'll hook the wires back up and we'll try this thing again. Alright, got all my spark plugs back in, my wires hooked back up. I'm going to go ahead and hook up my ignition wire here. Alright, let's see what happens. Well, still don't seem to be cranking a whole lot better. And I haven't heard it try to fire at all, so not sure what's going on. I'm not going to let it beat me. It just might beat me for today. So we'll give it a second, let some of that stuff run out of there. Got a pretty good amount of gas and brake parts cleaner down there in the bottom of the intake. So worst case, I know it turns over. I'm not hearing any bottom end noise while it's turning over, which you don't always hear it when it's moving slow. But I know it'll crank, I know it's got compression, stuff like that, so I may just say, yeah, the bottom end's probably good, and I'll dig into it a little bit further when I pull the head and stuff off. But I still want to hear it run for a second, so we'll see what happens. Oh, did you hear that? Sounded like a little bit of a kick to me. It's the problem, we're not getting enough spray in there because now it's trying to kick off. Well, that was interesting. I know for a fact this thing's in park, and I almost got ran over, and I almost got you guys ran over, but it did fire up and run. So let me I'm holding the truck right now, but let me get another chock under the wheel and find out what's backwards here. So I know that tranny's in park, and it might crank over a little bit if it's not trying to turn the transmission too. So let me try to get back there and get a chock back under the wheel because it drove over the one that I had, and we'll go from there. Alright, well, apparently when I crawled underneath to turn the linkage on the side of the carburetor or the transmission to put it in park, I was looking at it backwards, and I actually put it in first gear instead of park. Let that be a safety lesson for you guys. When you have a button directly on the starter. It's going to crank whether it's in park or not. And when you have a hot wire running straight from your coil to your battery, your coil is going to be hot. So I did end up running over my good tripod, which kind of hurts my feelings a little bit. And luckily I was able to get the truck shut off and stop it before it ran over me. So don't do what I do, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But truck fired up, sounded pretty good, you know, as good as I can expect bottom end wise. It's got a little bit of blow by, but I'm fine with that because, like I told you before, I'm planning on spraying a whole bunch of nitrous to this thing. And if it's got blow by, that means it's got big enough ring grooves, so I don't have to pull the pistons out and gap the rings. Or ring gap. It's got enough ring gap, so I don't have to pull them out and gap them. I probably should anyways, but I don't expect this motor to last a long time. I've got a bunch of parts to build it better. I'm gonna put the head and the cam and everything in it and hope the bottom end doesn't wipe them out when it lets go. But I know it's a bad thing to plan on blowing up a motor, but when you go do events like this where you're gonna be overheating it, running it hot, so on and so forth, it's bound to happen. So I'd rather blow up the motor that's already in there, and you never know, it's an inline six, it may stay together forever, which would be great. But if it doesn't, I'd rather blow up this one that came with this free truck, basically free truck, and then build another one than build a brand new one, not have everything set up right, and blow it up right off the bat when I got a bunch of money in it. So that's the plan. The goal of this video was to see if that truck ran, and it does. I could fire it up for you guys again, but I don't want to keep shooting brake parts cleaner down the yap of that thing. I hate doing that. Only reason I did it is because I was having trouble getting fuel in it. So we're going to call it a day on that. I'm kind of done after being half run over. So truck runs. It's got a steering column in it now, so I can steer it. I know the bottom end's going to be good. So next time you see this truck, I haven't decided if I want to do the cam swap and all that with the motor in the truck, or if I want to pull the motor out. But it has a 700 R4 transmission in it, and I don't want to run the 700 R4 transmission for the burnout contest. I have a turbo 400 and a turbo 350 that I can freshen up and put in it. I'm leaning towards the turbo 400, but this is going to be a big project, a lot of fab work. I'm going way further than I need to go for a burnout truck, but you never know what could happen with it. We may end up making a couple passes down the drag strip in it because I still want to see what kind of times I can run with an inline six. So that's a possibility. So it's going to get a cage, it's going to get, you know, all the good stuff. But if there's any performance companies out there watching this video and you guys are interested in sponsoring this truck, helping me out with some parts or something, please reach out to me in the email that I have posted in the description. I'd appreciate it. But other than that, that's going to do it for this video. Got a lot of stuff coming. I've got to get Rum Runner done for that show like I told you. I've got another project that I'm going to introduce to you guys this coming week that I got to do. And sorry about that. And then we got this burnout truck. I haven't decided which Cletus and cars we're going to yet. Kind of depends on money and how soon I can get it done, but that's the purpose of it. It is going to get built, and it is going to go to Cletus and cars. So thank y'all for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.